From the stories you want to the answers you need, this Answer the part of the Sports Nuts Network. Also, we would like to say a huge thank you and welcome to our international community as well. We have a great show lined up today with a very special guest joining. We're going to talk Razorback sports, Lakers, and more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Answer the Call.
And the pressure again. And as he throws it, stops, launches deep. Jalen Knight, touchdown, Williams to the end zone. Touchdown, Chargers to the middle and drops the ball. Down Henley. First interception in his career. Suppose, score, knock it out, a touchdown, Jeff Sawyer, headed down the sidelines.
If you want to talk ball, I will answer the call. It is a great day to talk sports on a Thursday or what? The week is almost over and the weekend is almost here. Let's go, guys. We've almost made it. We are joined by a very special guest, and Arkansas fans, you might recognize him. He used to be on Hog Sports. Tyler Davis is going to be joining us. Welcome in, Tyler. How are you doing?
Hey, Tim. I'm doing better than I deserve, honestly. I mean, it's Masters Week. We're in the thick of college basketball portal season. Spring football across the country. We're headed into NBA playoffs. It's a great time to be a sports fan. So excited to talk ball with you.
Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you for joining the show. When our mutual friend Will reached out and said, hey, I have a guest that I think you would like. Now, guys, I'm going to quote what our friend Will said. These are his words, not mine. But he said that, Tyler used to work with Trey Biddy at Hog Sports, and that he would put up his NBA knowledge up against anybody. So we're going to find out if Will was hyping up Tyler or if Tyler really knows his ball today.
Yeah, that's high praise. So I'll do my best to live up to
that. Tyler, real quick, just to kind of set the tone a little bit, just kind of tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then I'll get in with the question of Hog Sports in just a moment.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up like Will. I grew up in Benton in Central Arkansas. As a kid, played all the sports: football, basketball, golf, baseball. Growing up, I ended up sticking with football. Played left tackle for Benton through high school. But, I knew I was going to go with pro in something other than sports, as the old commercial used to say. So I didn't play sports beyond that. But I've been a huge sports fan my whole life. So I went to Ouachita Baptist. Similar to you, I kind of had aspirations of broadcasting and sports journalism. And I grew up on College Game Day and Sports Center and NBA Inside stuff. So I got my degree in mass communications with an emphasis in sports broadcasting, a minor in coaching. I was actually part of the first student-led sports show called The Rundown at Ouachita. I helped found that. So that was a really good, exciting opportunity. And then once I moved up to Northwest Arkansas, like you mentioned, I know we'll get into here in a second, but I was grateful and honored to be hired by Trey Biddy at Hog Sports. Kind of lived the Razorback fan dream and covered the team in three main sports for a year. Since then, I've been in sales, but I'm still a very plugged in fan. I'm chronically online. I have an incessant need for every update, oftentimes to my own detriment. But I'm still very plugged in, huge Razorback fan, huge Lakers fan, as you said. And then on a personal level, I'll be celebrating my 7-year anniversary here in about 4 days. So I'm married to my beautiful wife, Chelsea. She's from Northwest Arkansas, also went to OBU. We have 3 kids. So I have two girls and 1 boy. I stay very busy as a dad. That takes up much of my time. So the very little free time I get is involved with sports. And then I also like to sing. I don't do that very much. I know we'll talk about it in a little bit. I did some singing in the past with Will Ritchie. But beyond singing in the car, singing in the shower, I don't do it as much anymore. But that's a big hobby that
You know, speaking of singing, my wife says I can't sing, and that's fine. You know, not everybody can sing, not everybody can do a broadcast. So I think I'll stick to this versus trying to go out and sing. This seems to be a lot more of a strong point of mine than trying to go out and sing. But you did bring up singing. So it makes me wonder that's where this next question is going. So Tyler, it is to my knowledge that you were actually on America's Got Talent. So what was that like? Walk us through the experience and how far you made it. And was it singing that led you to America's Got Talent?
Yes. So we were on AGT. It was back in 2015. So the senior year of college. I know Will Ritchie, your former guest, and I, and then one other guy that we were friends with. It's funny, we went to high school together, and we were all injured on the football team at the same time. So because of that, we started hanging out. Obviously, I've been friends with Will since third grade, but we started hanging out, watching Razorback games. We knew that each other sang, and so we just kind of started dabbling, and then eventually it led to us trying out and auditioning. So we were at 2015, we were on AGT, we were kind of a pop singing group. And that process is crazy. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it than you see on television. You have to try out with producers months ahead of time, and there's a lot of hurry up and wait while you're there for days with rehearsals and interviews. But it was a really awesome experience. It was something that I would honestly do it again in a heartbeat if we had the opportunity. But being able to get to meet the celebrity judges, get to meet Nick Cannon, Heidi Klum touched my arm, so I haven't watched that spot since then. But I'm just kidding. It's something that we got to do and experience. We actually made it to the quarterfinals. So we got to perform live at Radio City in New York. None of us had ever been to New York City, and then we were there 4 or 5 times in 1 year. So it was a whirlwind. It kind of feels like it was a dream sometimes at this point. But, yeah, it's something we got to do. It's something I love to talk about. And it makes a great icebreaker whenever I start a new job.
So the three of you, like you guys were all like together, like kind of like a group. Is that right? Like you?
Yeah.
Okay. So Will, you, and another guy.
Yeah, we were a trio. We were called Triple Threat. So we kind of sang pop music. We were known for basically sounding a lot better than you would think we would based off of our looks. So they really played into, you guys don't look like you could sing, but you can really sing and harmonize. And so they really played that up in the edit on America's Got Talent. And I think it helped us with the audience.
Okay. So you made it to the quarterfinals, but that, like, I mean, so if Will was like, "Hey, Tyler, I need you, man. Like, let's go make another eat." You're ready? You could do it?
I'm there. I mean, the show ended kind of tough for us. I will say there was a little bit of a bitter taste in our mouth. I know because what happened was the last round, we didn't get to choose our song. We didn't get to choose choreography, what we wore. And then it ended up backfiring on us because the judges said you guys did something that wasn't you. And we knew it wasn't, but it wasn't up to us. So it was kind of a tough ending, but it's something that it didn't ruin the memory for me. And like you said, if he called me up and wanted to go back, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
All right. So you were on Hog Sports for a year, and our mutual friend Will mentioned you worked alongside Trey Biddy. Take us through what that was like working next to someone that has been so big in the Arkansas sports community.
Yeah. So that was obviously a great experience. I came up here originally to do grad school at the U of A for recreation and sports management. And so after a semester, I was lucky enough to kind of network. I had interned with Bo Mattingly on his radio show. I'd interned internally at the U of A in athletic communications. And so through those channels, I got in touch with Trey, and they were looking for an intern. So he hired me initially as an intern, and I was there. He eventually promoted me to full-time. I was there when Hog Sports transitioned from Rivals to 24/7 Sports. So that was a big moment for their website. Okay. But like you mentioned, yeah, Trey's a staple. He's a legend in Arkansas sports media. Danny West does really great work for them. He's got a tough job with the changes that have happened with college football recruiting. Recruiting's not quite as important, and Arkansas hasn't been great at it. So he's kind of had a tough gig trying to polish that, but I respect what he does. And those guys grind. I mean, they started from the ground and built it up and built an empire. So getting to experience that as a Razorback fan growing up and getting to go to every game, every practice, every press conference, talking directly to the coaches and the players was honestly like a fan's dream come true. So it was a really cool gig.
Man, not gonna lie, like when Will said that you worked alongside Trey Booty, like now I know, we talked a little bit right before, and the audience, for the most part knows I am an adopted fan, but when I heard that you worked alongside Trey Biddy, I was like, whoa. I was like, wow, like that's a a pretty big guest coming on my show. And so I was like, all right, like I want to be prepared because, working alongside him, I wanted, you to be like, hey, like this guy that invited me. So when I heard that, I did get excited. I'm not going to lie. And so like, I do thank you once again for taking time. And, But we're going to talk some other sports in just a moment, guys. Real quick, if you're enjoying the show, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your favorite take or segment. If you're watching on Facebook or X, like, follow, share with someone that loves football, sports as much as you do. Thank you for making today's show what it is. Before we get into Hog Talk and some Lakers discussion and the courtside call and all that, it's time for the Coll Report, news around the world of sports, where no story is too big and no story is too small for the Coll Report. And, here in the NFL world, projected first overall #1 pick, Fernando Mendoza has informed the NFL he is not going to attend the draft. He will stay in Miami to celebrate and experience the draft with his family in Miami. So I'm kind of torn here on this, because I understand both sides of it. Like, I understand, like, he wants to be with his family and celebrate that moment. Cause I mean, who doesn't want to celebrate with your family? But at the same time, it's like, you're the first overall pick. So now we're not going to get the luxury of seeing the #1 overall pick walk across the stage and put the hat on. So, what are your thoughts on this real quick? Like, is it a big deal, or is it like more cool that he stayed with his family?
Yeah, I see both sides. I mean, obviously, I respect it, being a family man and understanding where he's coming from. I think it also just speaks to the kind of person he is. He's definitely substance over flash. I mean, he is a #1 pick, but he doesn't necessarily carry himself like a typical #1 pick. So he's very humble. I think, obviously, the NFL and the TV rights and all the production companies would prefer that he's there for the content. But I mean, I respect the decision, and I think it's not going to affect anything either way. So it's good to see athletes still kind of grounded in their roots and not losing where they came from.
So just a few days ago, Monday, April the 6th, we saw national championship, NCAA national championship. Michigan Wolverines basketball won the national championship for the first time since 1989. They beat UConn 69-63. I do want to say, real quick, to those that tuned in on Monday's show, I said Michigan by 5, and they won by 6. I didn't give an exact score. I was just like, hey, Michigan by 5. And I kind of said it like being a smarty pants. And they won by 6. Way better game than the Final Four matchup that we saw against Arizona. Tyler, real quick, how did your bracket? Did you do a bracket?
I do. Yeah, I did a bracket. I do one every year. It's kind of like they say in golf, like you take a perfect practice swing and then your actual shot is not good. Your second man's always better than your first. But so my main bracket that I put in all the paid groups was not great. But thankfully for my work, we did a group and I was able to do a couple of brackets, and that one got second. So I actually got some money out of it. So I did pretty well. I mean, Michigan was a machine. I thought Arizona would compete much better than they did with them, obviously, after seeing them kind of dismantle Arkansas. But I think it's clear, I mean, this year, throughout the regular season and the tournament, it was the year of the big man. I know it's always been guards win in March, and I know Cadeau still won most outstanding player, so guards still matter. But the big man, the front court is where it was this year. So hopefully Arkansas can figure out that in the portal this year, this offseason.
For sure, for sure. I did terrible. I don't even remember how bad it was. Let's just say I had Arizona winning. So I did terrible. I do want to say, because you said about the whole practice swing thing, and this was years ago. It was when North Carolina faced Gonzaga in the national championship and won. I actually did a bracket where I got 98.8% of the picks right.
Wow.
I had the two national title games, or the teams in the national championship. I said that the score was going to be 69-65, and the score was 70-65.
Oh.
Not a money league, not a money bracket, nothing.
Yeah.
And I didn't watch I don't even think I watched a one game of basketball that season. And I was just sitting there, I was like, oh, this team's good. This team's good. Cinderella here. This team's good. And it worked. I kind of tried that this season. Obviously, NIL kind of changes that a little bit. My bracket stunk. Short story. So we're going to stay with NCAA real quick. The North Carolina Tar Heels hired Michael Malone as their new head coach. He is set to average $8.3 million per year over 6 years. This will make him the second highest paid coach, only behind Bill Self of Kansas. So, I was on a buddy of mine's show Monday night, and one of his guys, he has an intern, and he really knows his sports. He actually said that this kind of feels like a panic hire for North Carolina.
Yeah, it's interesting because, well, as a Lakers fan, I'm not big on Michael Malone because the Nuggets always seem to end our season. He's got beef with the Lakers, but it's interesting because his only college experience is prior to 2001. I know he spent 7 years as an assistant, and he worked at Manhattan. I know it's one thing that's interesting. He just hired Chuck Martin away from Arkansas as his associate head coach and assistant coach. So that's something to look towards as Arkansas fans. But he doesn't really have he doesn't have any college head coaching experience. So to see how that translates, obviously he's won an NBA championship. He's worked with Jokic. I know their big man, North Carolina's big man, Henry Vasar. I was kind of hoping he might hop in the portal, but Malone's probably already telling him he's going to be the next Jokic, so he's probably going to lock that down. One interesting stat I did see, though, in his NBA career with Jokic, he's 449 and 293, which is obviously a great record. But without Jokic, he's 61 and 101. Now, obviously, if you have a generational talent, you're going to win more games. I'm not calling him a Jokic merchant, but I'm also not calling him that. So I don't know how this is going to translate to college. Obviously, they tried. North Carolina seems to be into this thing about trying title-winning professional coaches like they did with Belichick. That hasn't worked out super well for them. So we'll see if it's a little bit better on the college side of things. College basketball, excuse me.
And we kind of, it happens in every sport. The starter, if Brock Purdy, for example, in the NFL, when Trent Williams starts versus when Trent Williams doesn't start, his numbers just change dramatically. And this sounds a lot like that in Mike Malone. I kind of was a North Carolina fan at one time. I remember Ty Lawson being there and a few others, and I was like, wow, this team is good. I don't follow it enough, but obviously, where I live, I do root for the Hogs. So I guess you could say I'm a Razorback fan now because I don't really root for Notre Dame in basketball. I root for them in football. And so, but at one point I was a North Carolina fan. And so when I seen this, I was like, and the thing that kind of stuck out to me was he said that out of all the colleges, he only wanted to coach at North Carolina. I was like, that kind of sounded like a cop out to me. But, I only wanted to play for North Carolina, which is the team that hired him. So to me, that sounds like a cop out, but that's a whole nother story. Real quick, guys, some news in the NFL. Devin Achan did not report to the first day of voluntary offseason workouts. He's looking for a new contract. It's probably what this stems to. I'm not too worried about it right now. Currently, it is voluntary after all. Now, if it starts getting into the mandatory and he starts missing OTAs and training camp, then we can start worrying. But right now, let's just pump the brakes. It's voluntary, and it's April 9th, so we still got a long off season for the NFL, I think. So if you don't have anything, I can just move on to the next one.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. This one is a real quick one. Pittsburgh Pirates, they just called up Connor Griffin last weekend. They now agree to a 9-year, $140 million extension, biggest guarantee ever by a rookie. He plays one game in the MLB, and they're like, well, gotta sign this kid for the next decade. So, I didn't see it. I did hear from a friend who was actually at that game live, Connor Griffin's debut. He said he was phenomenal. So I'm going to take his word for it. And obviously he was there. So that experience kind of tells me that he knows a little bit more. But it's just crazy to me. Like one game, and they were like, no, we got to sign this guy to a massive contract. We don't want to lose him.
Yeah, teams put a premium on arms, and the numbers in sports have gotten to a point where they're just astronomical. It's hard to believe. I blame my parents for not training me from a young age to become a professional athlete, because I would kill for some of these numbers.
Yeah, for real. I mean, quarterbacks, even linemen in the NFL now, they're making bank. So we're going to go back into your world with the next two headlines. NBA is investigating Kings for intentionally fouling Steph Curry with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter while having a 1-point lead. Anti-tanking to be voted on May 28th. Your thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah, I saw some clips from that game. There's no beating the allegations on that one. It was clear as day. That's what they were doing, was intentionally fouling a perpetually 90+% free throw shooter when the game's on the line, which makes absolutely no sense. We've seen NBA teams that have the lead going into the fourth quarter and don't play their starters just so they can intentionally lose. So the tanking has gotten to kind of a disgusting level in the NBA. Adam Silver really needs to do something about this. I know they have some measures out there that they're going to vote on. I hope they don't go too drastic on certain things. I think holding teams to a certain standard needs to happen, though. Teams are doing whatever they can to fall over each other and get that top pick, especially in this draft. Because there's so much top talent at the very top. But yeah, that was nasty work from the Kings the other night. All season it's been rough from them, the Jazz, and some others, and hopefully they can get that on track in the NBA.
Yeah, when I seen this, I actually seen kind of highlights of the game, but I saw part of the game. I didn't see the end. And then I was watching, Sports Center, and I was sitting there. I was like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? Why is this a thing? And so really though, how can they go about this anti-tanking, because in NFL, the worst team has the record. And even in NFL, sometimes we kind of well, did they tank a little? But it's kind of, you can't really prove it, but at the same time, it's because, in NFL, anything can happen just like NBA, but in the NFL, a quarterback could literally, the ball could literally slip out of his hand. In basketball, 9 times out of 10, most of the shots that your stars are making are going to go in. And so, is there really a great system? I know I seen something I think from 15 or 20 teams in the lottery down to I think 12, I think I saw. So is that, or do they need to go to a different extreme?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a great answer. I think it's going to be some trial and error to a certain extent. I mean, I don't know if they just really start holding teams' feet to the fire and start taking away draft picks for blatant tanking and fines and things of that nature. I mean, I know there's been some talk around trying to take like multiple seasons in a row, like you can't be in the lottery for multiple seasons in a row, or you can't be under the luxury tax, intentionally trying not to spend the money that you have to have a good roster. So there's some good thoughts out there. I don't know that I necessarily trust Adam Silver to do the best thing possible, but they've got to figure something out because it's just the NBA is already, in my opinion, too long as it is with an 82-game season. And then you add into the fact that there's half of that, some of these teams are spending intentionally trying to lose. It just makes for a bad product on a night-to-night basis.
It does. Did you, by chance, real quick, did you hear Draymond Green go off about this? Like, he was doing his little press conference and they were talking about tanking. He's like, when I mess up, I get fined, but where's the fines at for the teams? And like he was going on and he goes, there are like 12 teams that have been tanking and I only see 2 fines. That means 10 teams are not being punished for tanking. I was like, oh. But like he went on like during like pretty aggressively, not aggressively, but he just kept going on and on and on in this little press conference about his views on tanking and the fines. So, one more real quick. NBA may have 8 to 12 head coaches come this offseason. Tyler, you obviously know basketball more, so what do you think about this? And like, who do you think it could end up where?
Yeah, I'm not totally surprised. I think some of these tanking teams will probably be looking for new head coaches. You look at a situation like Milwaukee with Giannis. That's been a roller coaster of a relationship. Are they sitting him intentionally? Is he healthy enough to play? Is he going to get traded? Does he want to be traded? I'd be surprised if Doc Rivers is around long there. I think the Kings are probably looking for a new coach. It's hard to know exactly. I mean, I thought maybe Billy Donovan at Chicago might make a move to college, but then they ended up North Carolina didn't wait for him. So they're looking for a new GM. Are they going to make the new GM stick with that guy or hire his own guy? They typically don't have great process, so they'll probably stick with Billy Donovan. So it's hard to see. It'll probably be a big coaching carousel this offseason, though. I mean, I don't think the Lakers will be making any moves with JJ Redick. So luckily I can avoid that this offseason. But it's going to be a lot of turmoil, a lot of turnover in the
league. Real quick, I heard that there are multiple teams interested in Billy Donovan, so he could definitely be on the move. I also did hear Doc Rivers is thinking about retirement. So I mean, he could hang it up, and so they'll definitely need to replace him. But it's always crazy, because like, so it's really weird because I don't ever wish for anybody to get fired.
Sure.
But like in the NFL, right, like right after the Super Bowl, it's the NFL's Black Monday, so to speak. It's like, all right, time to and it just I just know that's going to be like one of them exciting because like, hey, this head coach, like John Harbaugh going to the Giants and this head coach going here. And it's really good to see when they can land back on their feet and land another job. But like, I'm just like in the NBA, like I can only imagine that it's kind of similar because in football, if they were not a great head coach, we'll say example, Brian Dable, there's still other positions. Like you can go be an offensive coordinator. You can go be a quarterback coach, so there's other coaches in the NBA. Yeah, I know there are other coaches, but I mean, like, you won't get recognized for being like, hey, I'm the guard coach. I don't know if that's a thing. But like, so in the NBA, it seems like if you don't make it as a coach, like your chances of getting another job are really slim unless you go to college or, you just really wowed somebody at some point. So, we'll have to see where Billy lands up. We'll have to see if Doc hangs it up. But, I mean, there's going to be a lot of talk, NBA talk this offseason. And I would hope I would hope for all sake that the Lakers don't get rid of JJ Redick. I actually, on my last show, I do a segment here. It's called the Call of Fame, Call of Shame, where if you do really good, you make the Call of Fame. If you make a head scratcher, I'll put you in the Call of Shame. And JJ Redick made my Call of Fame because he is, the first coach since Phil Jackson to win back-to-back 50-plus games. And so I would not want to get rid of that kind of coach. Like if you got rid of him, then all right, that's going to wrap up the call report. We're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. We're going to go into Hogs talk. As you all know, as I mentioned earlier, I am an adopted Razorback fan, but since I have rooted for them, it seems with the exception of track and field, it doesn't matter the sport. The teams seem to have a great roster, great coach, but still fall short. So, Tyler, you have been around Arkansas sports a lot longer than I have, but why does it seem they can never make it to or win big games?
Yeah. How much time do you have? We could spend a whole series on this. I mean, as many if you're on Arkansas sports social media, you probably know who Pinto is. He kind of coined the phrase "hog's gonna hog." It's just kind of a thing. For whatever reason, I think it's a combination of bad luck and then also just systemic problems and issues on our own end. We just can't seem to get out of our own way. So, I mean, I kind of chalk it up to a few different things. I mean, one, I think it has to do with resources. I think there's a clear gap between the blue bloods and the elite of the elite, especially now that when it comes to NIL. Our NIL is good, especially in basketball. Obviously, Cal's kind of got his own thing with John Tyson. That kind of runs itself. But in football, I mean, we're blessed to have the corporations that we have in this area. But I don't know that they're all the way bought in, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit because, I mean, the ROI hasn't really been there in football. So there's a resource gap between the elites in football and where we are. There's a geographic disadvantage to being in Arkansas. I mean, the local talent is not as good. High school football is not as good. Most of those guys want to play basketball. And I know that recruiting freshmen hasn't been as big of a deal in football because they all end up transferring anyway. So that's less of a thing. But there's also just a perception about Arkansas, I think, from recruits and from transfers. Everybody thinks one thing about Arkansas, and then you get here, especially in Northwest Arkansas, and it's different than what you thought. So you always hear if you could just get them to campus, you can really get them bought in. But it's hard to get them to campus because people think, Arkansas, why would I go there? And then third, I would say coaching, really instability and just poor timing. I mean, as we've seen, we've shown flashes, but we can't ever sustain anything. We reach the pinnacle with Nolan Richardson, and then that falls off on us. And we instead of hiring Bill Self, we end up hiring Stan Heath, and he's just a flash in a pan and doesn't work here. We have the Bobby Petrino years in football, and then obviously we know his motorcycle incident and the downfall that we've been chasing ever since then. So it's just kind of been one after other. We miss out on Bear Bryant because of Pearl Harbor and World War II. So, I mean, there's just a lot of incidents that have happened to us. And recently in football, I think with coaching, it's just been a number of almost hires that we end up settling, and then it just ends up backfiring, and we end up in mediocrity. Lane Kiffin is I think, the most recent classic example of that. We're almost at the 1 yard line with him. He ends up going to Ole Miss, likely due to some not being able to or willing to pay up for that. He has success. Leads them to the playoff. Now he's at LSU. So that's a big thing. I think just hiring the right coaches and then the timing of those coaches. And then lastly, and I don't know what you think about this. I think at some point it's just psychological. I mean, I think that there's a mental kind of loser's mentality that seeps itself into our programs eventually. Like at some point you have to win to prove to yourself that you can win. And there's been so many instances. You think about the Sternover against Tennessee, the Reggie Fish fumbled punt against Florida, getting Alabama in 2010, losing at home, the blowout loss when you're up 14-0 against LSU the next year. And then in baseball, I mean, when I worked for Hog Sports, that was the year we went to Omaha in the College World Series and dropped the foul ball to lose to Oregon State. So we've had so many instances where we're right there. And we just can't come through. And I think eventually that just seeps into your mentality and you start to believe that you're going to find a way to lose. We saw that in all the one-score games that we lost this past year in football. So at some point we've got to be able to put it all together. We can get one thing, but we don't have this. We can have that, and eventually we figure out how to put it all together. I don't know if Arkansas will ever be able to do it, but I'll continue to be a fan and root for them to be able to figure it out.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you want to answer this real quick, but our friend John, lifelong friend and friend of the show from the Pitch Grid Pod says, what does the name Brandon Burlsworth mean to Arkansas program? Did the movie about him do him justice?
Yeah. So obviously Burlsworth is a legend in Arkansas lore. I went to some football camps at War Memorial that were put on by Burlsworth. The stuff they do for kids is awesome. I think he kind of just epitomizes Arkansas because we're kind of that plucky underdog that nobody expected, and we've got to work harder than everybody else to reach the top. And so he was able to do that, become a walk-on, become an All-American. And obviously it's a shame what happened and how his life ended, but he's been a staple for us. I thought the movie was good. Obviously, it doesn't have the dollars or the production that some of the high feature films do, but I thought it was a good film, and it did a good job explaining his story. And it's one that I continue to watch today.
So the NIL and transfer portal has really changed college sports. I mean, we know that. We just saw DJ Wagner enter the portal, and so now because Arkansas was great. I mean, but we're losing Darius Acuff. Just lost DJ Wagner to the portal, and there's probably a few others. Now I understand that there are some great players coming in, but what kind of impact do you think losing DJ Wagner to the portal will have on the men's basketball team next season?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by him entering the portal, just mainly because he's Cal's guy. I mean, he coached his dad. He was with Cal at Kentucky. He came over with him here to Arkansas. Cal hypes him up every opportunity that he has. But ultimately, I think the decision makes sense for both sides. I mean, I do think I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I'm not the biggest DJ Wagner fan as a player. I love DJ Wagner, the guy. Obviously, kudos to him for taking situations with both Boogie and Acuff and kind of taking a backseat and staying ready. But I think for him, it's his last opportunity to really show out and show himself. So I'm sure he's going to get paid well. He's going to have a more expanded opportunity and role wherever he goes. But it will make some impact. I mean, I think the biggest thing you're losing is veteran leadership and also a secondary ball handler to kind of show Jordan Smith Jr. the ropes, because JSJ is not a traditional point guard. He will have the ball in his hands a lot his freshman year here at Arkansas. We've seen what Acuff can do. He can do a lot of those things. He's a different player, but I think he's going to be overall just as impactful. I will say, if there's one thing that I don't worry about with Cal, it's guards. And we're on a number of big names in the portal, whether that's Isaiah Johnson from Colorado, Terrence Hill out of ECU. I've heard Rob Wright. I think he's probably going to be a little bit too expensive. I think what I'm a little bit more worried about is trying to figure out how to get Malik Thomas back, because if you lose Leak, I mean, obviously you're losing Acuff, Malik, TB, Carter Knox, DJ Wagner. That's pretty much all of your shooting from this past year. And I know Cal's offenses aren't really heavily predicated on hitting the three, but you got to have some shooting. So I think we'll figure it out. I think the biggest thing is just that veteran leadership. So hopefully we can find a solid, experienced guard out of the portal that can hit some shots, but can also handle the ball and can either start if Malik leaves or can play a bench role if Malik Thomas comes back.
With DJ, I get the sense that, because when you look at his offensive numbers, I mean, he didn't average very great offensively, but what he was good at was, I feel like he was really good at defense. And this past season, it was like the offense was full of, shooters and could score at will. But then it was like coming off the bench, when those players needed a break, they didn't have anybody. And I think that's what kind of led to a lot of teams being able to keep up with Arkansas and eventually take leads, because they didn't have, the depth to be shooters. The bench seemed to be stronger defensive players. And so obviously defensively, losing a DJ Wagner is going to be key, but trust Coach Cal to, his name alone should probably warrant and bring in a lot of people, it's kind of like Nick Saban in college football, before the NIL and transfer portal, teams would, players would go all the way across the country to play for Saban because they knew his legacy and how he was going to teach them in the game of football. So for me, Coach Calipari is kind of the same, I would think that players would be like, hey, this is Coach Cal, a legendary coach. I'm going to learn something, and that's going to help further my career. So we'll have to see how this offseason plays out. But losing DJ Wagner already is a minor loss, or a major loss. Sorry. When you elevate the current trajectory of Arkansas Razorbacks football program, where do you see the most significant growth compared to previous seasons?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is to be determined. Obviously, we only know so much first year of a new coach. But if I kind of pinpoint a couple of areas that I hope to see the most growth, and I think that we will. I mean, I think the first is just overall discipline and situational football. I know we were bottom third in the country, specifically last year, in both penalties and turnovers. Obviously, going from Talon to probably KJ Jackson, you're sacrificing some explosiveness and big playability, but hopefully you're gaining some efficiency and taking care of the football a little bit more. And so I think that's an area, on top of just knowing when to call timeouts, when to go for it on fourth down. I know that was a big thing that everyone had against Sam Pittman, is just knowing what to do, when to do it in certain situations. So I think that'll be a big area where we see growth. Coach Silverfield has had experience in the NFL. He's had plenty of experience in Memphis. I think he's going to do a better job in that area. And then just overall, specifically from last year, I think the defense will be improved. I know that's a very low bar. Last year, we were pretty much a disaster. Couldn't stop anybody. We were losing games where we were scoring 45, 50 points. So we were able to retain our top defender in Quincy Rhodes. I think they did some good things in the transfer portal, bringing on guys at all three levels of the defense. And so I know, like I said, it's not saying much, but I think the defense will be improved. I think we'll be able to hold people hopefully to less than 30, 31 points per game. And then obviously, like everyone, just hopefully we can show an ability to win a close game, to win a one-score game. I mean, we were 7-19 in one-score games under Sam Pittman, 0-6 last year. Somehow we were deep into the season, and we went 2-10, and we had almost a positive plus-minus scoring margin. So I don't know how that happens, but hopefully this year we find a way to win those games when it gets down to the end, that we're not making the costly turnover, the costly penalty, the costly mistake coaching wise, and we can figure out how to win these one-score, one-possession games.
Absolutely. You mentioned KJ Jackson probably being the starter. I have seen, via Trey Biddy on X and some other hog media coverage, I've seen AJ Hill to Sutton Smith really dial it up. So, those two, of course, came over with Coach Silverfield from Memphis. And I got to tell you what I've seen in practice. And I understand it's practice for the scrimmage and all this, but man, you just get like a sense of urgency when you see plays like that happening in practice. It's just like, all right, hog football's back, like new season, new coach, new expectations. I think, based on what I'm seeing, I would love to see AJ Smith maybe try, but they're probably going to battle it out. So we'll have to see how that happens. But that's going to actually transition us to our next question about Ryan Silverfield. As everyone knows, last season was a disaster for the football team. How much success can the fans expect in year one with Ryan Silverfield, and what will their record be? And real quick, our friend Will, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, he said if we can just get to 6 wins, he would be happy. And so I want to hear your realistic expectations, your realistic beliefs, and what record you think this hog team can have in year one with Coach Silverfield.
Yeah, so full transparency, and those who follow me on X will know I'm a natural pessimist. A natural skeptic. And the day, with all due respect to Coach Silverfield, the day that we hired him, I was in a dark place. I'm going to be honest with you. I had ridden the roller coaster of the coaching search. I had heard the names from James Franklin to Matt Campbell, and I had eventually gotten to the point where it was like, hire somebody, just don't hire Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. And so that's, of course, exactly what Arkansas did. So, but respectfully, since then, he said some really good things. I really do like his mentality. He's had some success at Memphis. Like I said, I like the NFL experience that he has, the staff that he's put together. I would say expecting success year one is probably setting yourself up for disappointment, especially the climb that we're going to have from 2-10 is going to be pretty steep. And if you look at the schedule, I mean, it's just brutal, adding a 9th SEC game. I really think so. We play at Utah. I believe it's week 2. I think that's as much as you can say. I think that's a pivotal swing game for him, just for momentum wise. I think if you can win that, you could probably squeak out a couple of conference wins that maybe you weren't expecting. But if you lose that game or you get blown out, especially, I just think mentality wise, the wheels might fall off again. And then you see, I mean, Georgia, Tennessee, A&M, that's a brutal trio to start conference play. So honestly, I mean, I'm probably expecting us to win around 4 games, probably go 4-8 or so. If you can win 5, I think that's a solid year. And if you, like Will said, if you can win 6, that's a really good season. First year, making a bowl with everything that's against them, trying to turn over the entire roster. But there are a lot of new coaches, a lot of new quarterbacks in the SEC, so it really could be a wild card season, could make things interesting. And we saw last year, I mean, we had talent, and we were a play away from winning multiple games. So maybe that's similar, and maybe we flip the script this year and surprise some people. But if I had to put a number on it right now, I'd say we're going to go around 4-8 next year.
Okay. So just to clarify, we're not saying Arkansas is going to win 8 games, right?
No, I'm not making that mistake ever again. Like I said, I'm a natural skeptic, so I got to see it to believe it.
Right. I mean, and you mentioned the term hog is going to hog earlier. Well, right. I mean, trust me, I know, because there is a term, and I don't like it, but it's there, that the Chargers will charger. And what that means is they will find a way to lose in the big games or miss the playoffs or this and that or blow a lead. I've seen it so many times. And now, as an adopted Hog fan, I get to kind of live that in the college world. Real quick, nice little comment here that I thought. Thoughts on some teams not having a spring game?
Yeah.
I mean, Arkansas has one, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I have heard that. I mean, obviously, I don't know. It used to be a big thing. Like the spring games would all be streamed and people would watch it. And I think the biggest thing is people get skittish with guys showing out in the spring game and then hitting the portal and going somewhere else and teams plucking them. Obviously, there's risk of injury with spring games. I think every team should have a spring game. I would even be open. I know like college basketball does. Exhibitions before the season. I think it would be really cool to have like a spring scrimmage against another opponent. I think the players would get into it a lot more too after hitting each other all spring. So I think all teams should have a spring game, but I know that college football coaches are paranoid, and so I can kind of see where they're coming from and trying to back away from that a little.
Absolutely. All right, real quick, last kind of hog question, and then I want to transition to some Lakers talk, and then our rapid fire, and then we have all seen the new era of NIL and transfer portal and what it has done for teams, good and bad. What needs to happen for Arkansas to be able to land bigger prospects or keep them so they don't transfer out?
Yeah, that's a good question. When NIL kind of started and became a thing, I was pretty excited, honestly, because I mentioned some of those natural hindrances that we have geographically with recruiting. That kind of goes out the window when you can bring money into the picture. And we, like I said, we have corporations, we have money up here. So I really thought this was Arkansas's opportunity to take advantage and beat out some of these schools that were having success previously. I think we spent too much time from leadership perspective complaining about NIL and trying to find ways to change it from Congress instead of just embracing it and getting creative. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just realizing that it's not going anywhere. There may be some changes made, but NIL is here to stay. So we got to figure out how to embrace it and how to use it to our advantage. And so trying to get that buy-in. I mean, it's really a chicken and the egg thing. Obviously, it's this double-edged sword where you got to have donors bought into football, but they've got to have proof of concept to be able to do it. So what comes first? Do you win first and then the money comes, or money comes first and then it allows you to win? So ultimately, they got to. I think that Ryan Silverfield needs to come in and smooze a little bit. I think Sam Pittman was opposed to doing that, to shaking hands and kissing babies. I think Silverfield will be better at that. And showing a clear and concise and coherent plan, I think that will go a long way into getting people bought in. I also think just being able to, one, evaluate talent and value what people are worth in the marketplace. I don't think that Sam Pittman and his staff had a very good pulse on either of those things. I think hiring Skip Crawley as a GM from Arizona will be huge for Silverfield. I think he's going to really allow them to know what people are worth, know what their own players are worth, and then figure out who's a diamond in the rough that maybe we can pull from a smaller school or maybe didn't play as much from one of these high major programs. So I think that's going to help. Basketball, they don't need as much help. Like I mentioned with Tyson and Cal, it kind of runs its own thing. I think the biggest thing there is Cal's just really stubborn. He keeps saying he doesn't want to get into these bidding wars. It's about being transformational, not transactional. And honestly, it's transactional at this point. You can be transactional, get the player, and then be transformational and get him to the NBA still. So I think just swallowing some of that pride and being a little bit less stubborn will help Arkansas land some top transfers. And then obviously, once you have the good players, you have to be willing to pony up and pay them to keep them around.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And my father-in-law, he tells me all the time that, Tyson, JB Hunt, all these corporations, Don Tyson and all them, or John Tyson, excuse me, was a big basketball fan. And so that's why, you mentioned Calipari kind of having that deal with Tyson. And so we'll have to see. I mean, obviously, I would love to see them win one. I'm sure all Hawk fans want to see their team win, but I would love to see it because, I mean, living here and being so close to an atmosphere like this is like no other. So we're going to transition to another team that you have a lot of knowledge on, and that's the Lakers. First off, how did you become a fan of the Lakers? I have to assume it was because of Kobe Bryant, or was it something else or someone else?
Kobe was the ultimate deciding factor. Arkansas doesn't have a professional team, so you kind of get to pick and choose who you root for. And I was a sports fan from an early age. So even though I was born in the early 90s, really that three-peat from 2000 to 2002 with the Lakers is when I really started becoming a huge fan of them, with Kobe and Shaq, that duo. I loved them. Obviously, having Derek Fisher be from Arkansas and play such a huge role in those teams was really cool to me as well. But like you said, it ultimately boils down to Kobe. I've been a Kobe fan since I can remember. He's my favorite player of all time. Just the Mamba mentality that he has, the work ethic to outwork every single person, regardless of talent, was always just inspirational to me. And the way that his life ended was obviously tragic. That's the only celebrity death that's ever happened and probably ever will happen that honestly made me cry. So it impacted me deeply. It happened about a month before we had our first child, who was going to be a girl. And I know there was a lot of stories out there about Kobe being a devoted girl dad. So it just really hit me hard. And so it feels weird to not have him around at Laker games, giving insight to the team to this day. But yeah, that's how I became a Lakers fan, kind of in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I had to assume, I mean, because I had to assume that like me and you are kind of similar in age. I'm closer to 40 than I am 30. And so I just kind of like, people from that era, if you're a Lakers fan, you're a Lakers fan because of Kobe, and if you are a newer generation, you're a Lakers fan probably because of LeBron.
Right.
Okay, so sorry, I lost my notes here. Okay, Luka had a great month of March,
He did.
putting up numbers we haven't seen for a while. Where would you rank his play versus others, like in 1 month or in the month of March? Like, how great is Luka in that aspect?
Yeah, his March was phenomenal. I mean, I still can't believe that Nico Harrison made that trade. I don't know what he was thinking on that. In the month of March alone, I mean, you look, he averaged 37 points, 8 rebounds, 7.5 assists. He scored over 600 points in the month, which is more points than Anthony Davis scored in his entire tenure as a Dallas Maverick. That's a pretty major stat there that hurts their trade value there. He was obviously Western Conference Player of the Month. The Lakers went 15-2 as a team. To me, I mean, that's best in the world type stuff. I mean, I know that there's arguments back and forth on the MVP. He's not going to win it. I think that he's actually ineligible based on number of games played because of some injuries, and then he missed a couple because of the birth of his daughter. But people just suddenly want to be obsessed with defense in the MVP race, even though we've had people like Steve Nash and James Harden, Steph Curry, even Jokic win the MVP, and those guys aren't known for their defense. I think that he gets a bad rap. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Lakers fan. I watch every single game. He's better on defense than he gets credit for. I mean, he's got size. He gets in the passing lanes and gets a number of steals. He tries hard on defense. So I just don't think that's a good argument to not give him. I think he's the MVP because you take him away. You've seen what happened to the Lakers when you take him away. We'll continue to see that the rest of the season. So I think he deserves it. He's not going to win it. I think it'll probably go to SGA because he's the best player on the best team. But the last month was phenomenal, generational type stuff.
Unfortunately, though, he did get injured, and you know it's kind of like now it's going to be like one of those what if situations, you know. So unfortunately, after the impressive March, he did get injured and will miss the rest of the season, and his availability for the playoffs are in doubt. If Luka can't play in the playoffs, how far do the Lakers make it?
The sports gods giveth and they taketh away. Like you said, it is unfortunate. It's kind of a weird feeling to feel like that euphoric feeling of going 15-2 in 1 month, racing up to the 3 seed, feeling like maybe this team really has a chance to contend, and then in one night you lose Luka to a grade 2 hamstring strain and Austin Reeves, who's having a career year, to an oblique injury. I know Luka's supposed to be out around 4 to 6 weeks, which with the playoffs coming up, that would put him out at least to the end of the first round and maybe the beginning of the second, best case scenario. I know he went to Spain, so he's in Spain right now getting some advanced like injection treatment, hoping to kind of expedite the healing process. So fingers crossed that works, and maybe he's able to come back quicker than people are expecting. But your question, if he's out, they're toast. Tim, I mean, I got to be honest with you. I would be very surprised if they don't have Luka if they win a single game. It's looking like they're supposed to be around the 4 or 5 seed and will probably play the Houston Rockets in the first round, a team who I think is fraudulent. And if at full strength, I think the Lakers would have beaten them. But without Luka and without Austin, I saw this is the first time ever that a team is entering the playoffs with 2 21-plus points per game scorers out. That's just too much to overcome. I mean, trying to be reliant on a 41-year-old LeBron James and basically a South Bay Lakers roster, that's just not a recipe for success, especially in the playoffs. They're getting blown out here to end the season. I think it's going to be more of the same. If he doesn't come out, they really don't have a chance to do anything.
All right. So it does look like they are going to face the Rockets. I did kind of look at the standings, and I forgot who clinched the 7 seed. So it does look like the Lakers and the Rockets are destined for the playoffs against each other. No Luka, no playoff wins, it seems like. So, all right. I have one more Laker question. Then we'll ask you a few rapid fire, and then we'll wrap up the show. Will this be this? So this is kind of like a two-parter, or first, will this be the last year that we see King James? And if he does hang it up after, or do you think LeBron hangs it up after the season?
There's a lot of speculation. Obviously, LeBron is a very polarizing player. I'm going to be honest; it's been kind of a weird experience for me because I was the world's biggest LeBron hater for multiple years. Every game was appointment television for me to hate watch him, and it was really a media-driven narrative. The way they talked about him really made me dislike him. But once he came to the Lakers, obviously I got to get rid of that thought process, and I root for his success. I don't think so. I don't think this is his last year. And I think that for a couple of reasons. One, respectfully, I think his ego is a little bit too big to go out quietly. This is the guy who brought us the decision when he decided to go to Miami. He's going to want some sort of farewell tour where he gets the acknowledgement that he feels like he deserves, and he's ultimately earned. So I don't think he's going to just end it the way that this season's going to end. And then two, he really just has too much left in the tank, in my opinion. Like we talked about before. I mean, he's a productive player. I know he's 41 years old, but he's averaging 21, 6, and 7. I mean, that's a career season for more than half of the NBA. So maybe he's not an MVP. He's not a number one option anymore necessarily, but he's still a highly productive player. So I think he's got too much left to give it up now. He's going to have a decision to make this offseason. Most of the teams that have cap space are not very good. They're tanking teams. He's going to want to compete for a championship. Ultimately, I think he stays in LA. They can offer him the most money for the most part. His family loves it in LA. Bronny's on the team. I think it just makes too much sense. So it wouldn't shock me if he went maybe to Cleveland or elsewhere, but I don't think he's going to retire, and I think ultimately he's going to still be a Laker next season.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see him. And let's say Luka doesn't come back, okay? And they're one and done in the playoffs. Well, hypothetical, they get swept by the Rockets. I don't see that happening, but maybe it does. Excuse me. I don't see LeBron wanting to end his career on a one and done.
No.
I see him wanting to go out in the biggest moment, the biggest stage, like you said. And I see him like, hey, like, I mean, every player wants to, and I get that. But like nobody wants to end their career on a, well, what if Luka was healthy? What if Austin Reeves didn't get hurt? And I think when you're a competitor like LeBron, you just, you have that mentality, like you have that dog in you, so to speak. And I think that, when you have that, you're ultimately competitive, and you can't end your career no matter what's going on. You can't end on that kind of note. So I do like you said, if they go one and done, he's out. If they make it to the conference finals, maybe. But if they're one and done, I definitely see LeBron coming back, trying to get another championship. So, all right, I got a few rapid fire, and then we'll wrap up the show and get you out of here. I'm sure you're busy, and I'm sure work is crazy. So, Tyler, it is time to put you on Coll's hot seat. A little rapid fire. I had the luxury of having Dan Scott on the show a couple weeks back, last week actually, and I mentioned this. I brought this question to him, and I want to ask you because you being an NBA fan, buzzer beater or game-saving block?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit selfish here and pick the buzzer beater. I played basketball growing up. I only played until 8th grade, but if there's one thing I could do, it was shoot the ball. So there's just something magical about being able to make a shot right at the very end to win a game. I'll let somebody else do the dirty work and have the game-saving block. I'm choosing the buzzer beater in this instance.
Dan said the same thing. He said buzzer beater. Obviously with him calling play-by-play, way more exciting. But I just remember in the women's UCLA Bruins game, their Final Four. It wasn't really quote unquote the game-ending saving block per se, but I forget her name. I think it's Betts, number 51. Yeah. With like 10 seconds left in the game, she blocked that shot, and that's ultimately what led the Bruins to winning the game. So I just think that in that moment, and I remember all like, especially when LeBron first came in the NBA. I mean, just chasing down those people and blocking the shot from behind. There's something about a game-saving block. Just maybe it's because like in football, I am more of a defensive guy than an offensive guy. I do love the offense, but I do tend to lean toward, those close scoring games. So like when I see a defensive play, and I think it's because it doesn't happen as often, I'm like, oh man, so I can't go wrong with either one. Next question. If you could only watch one sport the rest of your life, what would you choose?
You're killing me with that one. That's a tough question. And it's honestly something that's fluctuated and changed throughout my life. It changes by the season. But to give a final answer, I would have to pick basketball. It's my favorite sport to play still. I think a large part of that is the Razorbacks are better at basketball. I'm a Lakers fan, so I'm big into the NBA. And outside of watching Hogs in the NFL and doing fantasy football, I'm not as big into that league. So if Arkansas has a resurgence under Ryan Silverfield and becomes a perennial playoff contender, maybe I'd change my answer. But yeah, if I had to pick one sport, it would pick basketball. I love the pace of the game. I love the pageantry. I love March Madness. You can't beat it. So I'm going with basketball on that
one. All right. Last one. Favorite Arkansas player, both past and current.
So I'm not very unique probably on this one. I'm going to be playing all the Razorback greatest hits. I mean, I grew up on football and with Matt Jones, Darren McFadden, Ryan Mallett. In basketball, Ronnie Brewer, Bobby Portis. So those are all my kind of favorite players in the past. Obviously now, I mean, you got to pick somebody like Darius Acuff, a generational talent, maybe the best guard Cal's ever had. I feel like my favorite basketball player is probably going to be whatever new guard Cal brings in every single season. So it'll probably be Jordan Smith Jr. this next year. I know everybody loves Billy Richmond for sticking around, for the way he plays, his dog mentality. He's another one I would throw in there. Football currently, I'm going to be honest, is a little bit tough for me. I mean, this last season, I really liked Mike Washington. He was kind of an underdog, came out of nowhere and put up numbers, had a tremendous combine, and he's really shot up draft boards. So I liked him, but my favorite current football player is really up for grabs. I'm hoping somebody really comes out of nowhere and stands out this next season and kind of can take that throne. So I don't really have a great answer for current football player, but all the Razorback greatest hits, kind of similar to most Razorback fans for me.
Oh, yeah. Darren McFadden obviously would probably be mine. Even though I wasn't a Hog fan back then, I mean, I can still appreciate. So, well, what a show that was, however you may have watched or however, well, real quick, I'm sorry. If you have any socials that you would like to plug, now you can go ahead and do that and tell the audience where to find you.
Sure. You can follow me on X. It's Tyler Davis 93. Like I said before, you may unfollow me quickly. I have some hot takes. I'm pretty emotional as a fan, but I stay plugged in. I retweet most of the latest news. So if you want to keep updated that way, but I am emotional. I am kind of a skeptic. I can lean towards the negative side sometimes, but if you want to give me a follow, would love to interact with you on there and interact with some other fellow Razorback fans on there. So Tyler Davis 93.
Thank you so much for that. What a show that was. However you may have watched, however you may have listened, thank you for making this show part of your day. Big shout out to Tyler for joining us today and giving us some insider on Hogs, Lakers, and a little bit on the NBA. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and tap the bell to answer the call. If you're listening on Spotify, leave a rating and share it with someone who loves the game as much as you do. It helps the channel tremendously. You can find me on Facebook and all other social media platforms for short clips and different posts engaging. Guys, on Friday, we have the call log where you submit your questions and I'll answer them live on Monday. So be on the lookout for that, guys. I'm Tim Collins, and I'll see you the next time. And as always, talk ball with Answer the Call.